So what's your intuition with Cardano having the proof of stake and then eventually smart contracts versus the Bitcoin with layer 2 technologies, this kind of evolving creature? Again, you said you can't really predict the future, but what's your intuition why one might be more successful than the other?
So the problem with Bitcoin is it is so slow. It's like the mainframe programming of the past. And it's the only reason it's still around is because there was so much invested in keeping it around that we just kind of have to leave it there. And one day COBOL will die. There's nothing about it from a collection of USPs that's particularly desirable. You have extremely long settlement time. You have extremely low programmability. It is not aware of any other system. There's no native way of issuing an asset in that system. You can't even do a pull transaction. I mean, you can't do anything that's interesting or unique there. And yeah, all due respect, it's, mafia, all due respect, Tony. You got some problems.
You
need
come
to lose
to me
some weight
on the day of my daughter's wedding.
I know. So, all due respect to the Bitcoin people, it's like an amazing, incredible first generation thing. And we're all here because of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But the problem is you have to upgrade the damn thing. Just because you were a high school football star doesn't mean that 30 years later, you're still a high school football star in the same shape. You got the beer belly, you're old, you're not doing this thing again. And that's what Bitcoin has to do. There's fundamental improvements that I think Bitcoin can make at the protocol level that would actually make it an incredibly competitive system. Like if they wanted to keep Nakamoto consensus, proof of work, there's ways to enhance proof of work. I mean, Amin Gansir did this with Bitcoin NG. Pramod Viswanas did this with Prism. Make it 10,000 times faster, and you don't compromise the fundamental security assumptions that the system has. You can add programmability to it. Blockstream created a language called Simplicity. So there's actual ways to extend, and we did this with Cardano with the extended UTXO model. There's ways to extend what Bitcoin has, keep the philosophy, the accounting, the way of thinking about transactions, but then suddenly you can now do DeFi and other things. But what they've done is said, we will not evolve the base layer at all, and we're just going to build all this layer 2 stuff, which is usually highly fragile and centralized and requires enormous effort at the base level to do anything. It's not a coincidence Vitalik started as a color coins guy and a master coin guy, hanging out in those circles. He was trying to innovate and do things in Bitcoin, and it was so hard and difficult that he started diverging and going and doing things in a different system entirely. I knew the Mastercoin guys, JR, and all these people. They were maximalists. They really wanted to build something cool and exciting for Bitcoin. And anything they did, the developers would attack them. It's, you're misusing op return. You're doing this, that. It was a holy war anytime you wanted to evolve. So I think it's its own worst enemy. It has the network effect. It has the brand name. It has the regulatory approval. But there's no way to change the system, even correcting obvious downsides in that system. Now, what's really cool is Ethereum doesn't suffer from that problem. It's getting to a point where it has a similar network effect to Bitcoin, but the community there is completely different in culture. They love evolving. They love upgrading, sometimes a little too much. And so that means that if you look at the trajectory of things, if I had to bet just those two systems, Bitcoin or Ethereum, I would say 9 times out of 10, Ethereum is going to win the fight against Bitcoin if it was the only competitor. But obviously we're here and a lot of other people are here. So there's different things going on. So it's a much more complex game. But I think that's always the key, zooming out a little bit, set the technology aside and the word salad of cryptography aside, because it's too much. What you have to always do is say, what incentive does the system have to evolve? And when you look at things like Android and the App Store and these analogous platforms, you say, the evolution is user-driven, and there's a financial incentive for the user to participate. So if I had to look at the trajectory of this thing, come back 10 years later, it's probably going to have millions of applications and lots of stuff going on because that's the way the system was constructed. Okay, it makes sense. When you look at Bitcoin, you say, what is the incentive to evolve the system? There's none. What is the incentive for the system to get more competitive? It's not. In fact, it's the opposite. They've turned it into a religion. I was in Miami at this Bitcoin conference there. I had a toilet paper roll thrown at me that had shitcoin written on it. You have Max Kaiser out on the stage, doing his best Rick James impression. It was,
Was he the guy that did the F Elon? Fuck
yes,
Elon?
yes, yes.
Oh,
And
that's
so
wonderful.
you're watching this stuff and you say, okay, first, why would anybody want to join that? And then second, where is the conversation about how do we achieve something? I started with Cardano the end in mind. I said, we really want to sit down and build this financial operating system. And the definition of success is the poorest person in the world has access to the same system as the richest person in the world, and they both get treated fairly. We've never had that happen before. Okay, that's something. You can agree with it, disagree with it, say it's boiling the ocean, it's impossible. At least I have something. I can't for the life of me understand what the hell is the point of Bitcoin. When I joined the Bitcoin space way back in the day, it was, hey, we hate the dollar, and hey, we like gold a lot. Let's create digital gold. Let's build a payment system. And then it just kind of went all these different directions, and nobody can actually tell you what Bitcoin is for. It's a store of value, okay. There's some proof of work thing where maybe you're like incentivizing alternative energy to be produced. I don't know. It's like nobody really knows the philosophy. There's no direction. And they say, but don't worry, just buy and hold, and everything will sort its way out.
I believe it's HODL.
Yeah, HODL.
What about the idea of digital gold? So trying to replace this particular physical material that is gold and transfer into the digital
that's
space.
Something. Okay, let's do that then. And just say that's all it does. Then why are we doing Lightning? Why are we doing any of these other things? Because you don't really need with a commodity, a digital commodity, high throughput. You can have slow settlement. You can have high transaction fees, all these types of things, and that's fine. Okay, that's something. Pick it.
Well, the idea is to try to come up with technology like the Lightning Network that could have something like gold, but then still build an economy around it. Something with high throughput transactions.
And have we ever built a successful banking credit system off of gold? Never. It never works because there's too much volatility in the underlying asset. Would you take a gold-denominated loan for something? If somebody says, all right, I'll give you 5 bars of gold to go buy this car and pay me back 5.5 bars of gold. Nobody would know in 5 years where they come out in that kind of arrangement.
The idea is that the gold is used for the settlement of transactions, and then the actual economy is operating outside of gold. And then you kind of connect back to gold.
So we have to go back to the gold reserve, and we tried that for a long time. It didn't really work in a modern global economy. We had the Bretton Woods Agreement and all these other things. And so I understand what you're saying. And maybe there's some merit to that. But if that was really in earnest where they want to go, then the conversation should be about, well, how do we make it easy for layer 2 protocols to interact with Bitcoin? So why is simplicity not built into it? Why is it taking so long to do SNORSEGs? Why is it taking so long to do all of these obvious upgrades, which are cryptographically low danger? Also, NEPA POWs. Non-interactive proofs of proof of work. There's no cost to doing that. It's just a property of proof of work where certain puzzles are more special than other puzzles. And by noticing that, you can create these beautiful proofs that allow you to have sidechains and light clients. It's not compromising security of the system. It's just something you get for free with proof of work. Those came out in 2016. There's derivative workfly client floating around. Where the hell is it?
Yeah.
This is the frustration that I have is like, if you really are serious about this whole Lightning and gold economy thing, I love choice. I'm a libertarian by nature. I love competition. And, I read all those books. I read Ludwig von Mises's work and Murray Rothbard's work. And I love what Hayek had to say about private currencies. Let's go try it. That's great. But then you have to have some focus and commitment as an ecosystem. And the excuse they use is, well, no, we don't because we're decentralized. And because we're decentralized, we don't need that. As if there's some sort of guiding swarm intelligence that will naturally push the system in that particular direction. But then you ask, well, how do people measure the success of Bitcoin? Is it the fact that they've actually achieved lots of transactions and lots of actual economic activity and lots of businesses accepting
Number
Bitcoin?
go up.
It's the price. That's what they do. And that's the only thing they pay attention. That's why this is the most attended Bitcoin conference in history. Not because somehow Bitcoin got so much more adoption. It's because this is the highest price point Bitcoin has ever been this year, over 30,000.
So first